What's up, guys? Welcome to day 36. So today's topic, I have to admit, is a little bit of a working theory. I have a hypothesis that I'm still kind of working through myself. So forgive me if this turns out to be completely nonsensical, but it's a little bit of a conscious thought stream that I've been thinking about recently. A lot of my time is spent trying to help my clients solve problems. So as a result of that, I spend a lot of my time thinking very holistically, thinking almost removed from my own body, so that I am trying to see things from different people's perspective and go back to first principles and try to understand what the deep-rooted cause is, because everything has a cause and then it has an effect. And I'm trying to get to that point of, it's not, oh, I didn't go to the gym today because I didn't have time, or it's very rarely the first answer that we tell other people or even we tell ourselves. That is quite a subconscious thing. The real root of it is often quite deep rooted, and one of the things that I'm quite into, and I'm not an expert in by any means, but I'm learning more and more about it all the time, is human evolutionary psychology. And just understanding, one of the big parts of that is understanding how we've ended up here, how we've evolved to get to where we are, and also then to look ahead and think about where we're going. And a big part of that is the decisions, because if we think all of the decisions that all of humanity has made individually and collectively have got us to this point today, where you are, where I am, with everything that is in the world around us, yeah? And whether you think that's a good place or a bad place is down to, I suppose, circumstances, but more to the point, probably down to perspective as well. Because there's plenty of people who are probably worse off than you that seem happier than you, and that's their perspective, right? But today I want to try and, I guess, just give you a bit of a conscious thought stream about how to make better decisions, how I go about this process, because I think it's a very important process. Ultimately, we are the sum of our decisions, of our habits, of our actions, of our behaviors, and of our values, and everything that we have got, unless you have, come from an unfortunate situation, where you've been born with some kind of mental or physical disability, or autoimmune disease or something like that. You are the sum of your choices, right? We have to face into this sometimes brutal and uncomfortable truth, but I think the quicker and deeper we go on that, the more control we get, because it enables us to go, okay, this is the situation, I'm taking complete ownership and personal responsibility for it. What can I do about it? What's my plan? Because that has happened. What has happened has got me to here. I don't like where I am here. I want to get there. What's the plan to get there? And that's probably the first thing I want to cover in terms of how to make better decisions, is actually getting crystal clear on where you are trying to go and what you are trying to achieve. Because more often than not, most people are striving for things that they have been told they should strive for. And nowadays, one of the big common buzzwords is a balanced life, a healthy, balanced life. And that means something very different to everybody. It's a very vague statement, right? And you could get 10 people in a room from all different backgrounds and countries. They would understand what you've asked them, but they would define it in 10 different ways. And if you ask them to draw it or to write an essay on it, I don't know, what does that look like to you? What does a healthy, balanced day in the life look like? They're going to give you 10 different things. So I think you need something more specific than that. I think you need one thing, which is kind of like a North Star, like a big goal or objective that you're trying to work towards. And I think that's the most important thing. I think get very crystal clear on what you actually want. What's the one primary thing that you want? And that could be anything. That could be a thing. It could be an emotion. It could be a feeling. It could be, something to do with money, something to do with health, something to do with relationships. It doesn't really matter. It's personal to you. You don't necessarily have to tell other people, but what you do need to do is try to get absolutely crystal clear on it, and try to have one thing in mind, because then that clears the path of everything else. Focus and patience is what gets the people who achieve the thing. Whereas if you lack focus, which the vast majority of people do, because they're trying to achieve 5 things at once, they're trying to achieve this balanced life where out with their friends at the weekend, in the gym, working hard, working on their relationship, looking after their children, all of these things. And I'm not saying, by the way, if you're a parent or if you've got a partner, to just be like, sorry, you're out, sorry kids, you're out on the street now. Obviously I'm not saying that. I understand we all live within certain parameters. However, within your own personal life, you do have the capacity, more capacity than you think you do. I can absolutely guarantee you that if you really, really sat yourself down and thought about it. But also, if you really want to achieve something, you need some focus. And the best starting point, I believe, to making decisions is to understand whether that decision is going to contribute positively or negatively to your primary goal. Because that is going to, whether it's going to move the needle in the right direction or the wrong direction, that's massively going to help you. The other thing to really think about is how we make decisions. So you and I, we are human beings, and whether we like it or not, consciously and subconsciously, the vast majority of the decisions that we make day to day are subconscious. Okay? And that's fine. We can't necessarily change that drastically, but what we can do is we can try to make more decisions logically. Think about it this way. When you're making a big decision, I don't know, whether you buy a certain thing over a certain value, whether you get into a relationship or marry someone, whether you have children, whether you move house or change jobs or move country, these big, what we call like life-altering decisions where we believe they're going to change the trajectory of our life. You don't make it in a whim like that. You don't make it on an emotion in an instant, right? You make it, you sort of sit with it for a little while. Sometimes you sit with it for a long time. And you weigh up the pros and cons, you try and see it from different perspectives. Maybe you ask your friends, your family also, if you externalize it as well. And that's great. You're thinking about it with logic and with emotion. But the vast majority of your decisions are A, subconscious, and B, made on emotion. And I think this may be where a lot of people are sort of leaving a lot on the table. If we were to logically how do I say this? That's nice and distracting. If we were to make more decisions with logic rather than emotion on a day-to-day basis, I think we would all be better off. And better off, I'm going to leave you to interpret however you want to interpret that, whether that's, again, to do with your fitness, your happiness, your mental health, whatever it might be, your money, whatever. And I think if you think about that and you really break that down, that is a huge game changer. It could be. Like, when was the last time you didn't make a day-to-day decision based on a subconscious emotion? So I'll give you a really good example. Whether you do the extra set in the gym, what you eat for dinner, most of these decisions, most people don't logically think, right, I'm going to eat this for dinner because they eat something for dinner because they think this is healthy or I want it. Most people, it's I want it. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that sometimes. But I think if you apply some logic to more of the day-to-day decisions, I'm pretty certain you would get what you want faster. But first, you have to get crystal clear on what you actually want. Because most people, maybe they think they do, but if you ask them to strip it down to one thing, I think most people would really struggle. So, to summarize so far, logic over emotion. If we can make more decisions using logic and the logical side of our brain rather than the emotional side of our brain, I feel like that would move things forward quite a lot. But here's the thing. I don't want you to completely neglect the emotion. I want you to sit in the emotion and accept that you have that emotion about that decision, but not let the emotion sway your decision. This is kind of where discipline comes in. I'll give you a great example. There is always a cause and effect. I can't find the cause yet, but for whatever reason, I had a terrible night's sleep last night. Terrible. I think I finally got to sleep at like 2 a.m. I was up at 7. But even when I was asleep, the brain was still ticking over. You didn't feel like I was asleep, right? And Tuesday, which is today, just happens to be leg day for me. I did not want to train legs today. And that's, but I made a logical decision that if I do it, the reward is going to be better than the cost than if I don't do it. So the emotion was, no, fuck that, I don't want to do it. I'm, tired, I'm stressed, whatever it might be. The logic is, yeah, get that, no worries, but if we do this thing, you're going to come out of it, you're going to feel proud of yourself that you've done it when you didn't want to do it, you're going to feel more energized because you've actually you've got some fresh air, you've changed your environment, you've seen some people, you've lived in a community, because that's a huge part of it as well. You've got the blood pumping a little bit, you've got the heart rate up, you've got some fresh air, all that sort of stuff. You're going to feel better. And shock, I do. Here I am now, 2 hours later, feel good, filming a YouTube video. Cool. So there, in that situation, I didn't completely dismiss the emotion. I didn't go full sort of like, fuck happiness. I was like, no, okay, I get it. I understand the emotion. I understand why I feel like this, but I'm going to acknowledge that, and then I'm going to dismiss it. And it becomes quite an introspective process, this. But I think if you neglect it, I think that's probably quite unhealthy, I would imagine. I don't know what that would look like because I don't do it. But I would imagine if you just completely suppress your emotions, you're probably not going to become a very good human being. So I'm not asking you to do that. And I'm not saying you have to do this with every decision. I guess what I'm saying is, I think that one of the key things to help you make better decisions is to try and be more conscious with more of your decisions. And by being more conscious, you're going to make less emotionally led decisions and more logically based decisions. Because you're a smart person. You know the difference between good and bad. You know the difference between right and wrong. And you know the difference between sort of healthy and unhealthy. You know what is going to score a point for you and a point for hedonism, basically. And the more points you score every single day, the better your life is going to get. It's just fact. So yeah, that was kind of the basis of today's video. To some people that might have made a lot of sense. I hope it did to you. If it didn't, I apologize. I'll try and come back around on this topic. It's something I'm still working on. It's a bit of a working hypothesis. It's a bit of a thought stream. But I hope it was useful, and I'm always open to being challenged on this stuff. So drop a comment below if you feel like I'm chatting absolute shit. And if not, I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, guys.